Like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, you tied a rope to me. You're blessing me every day. I was down with an illusion, like a sparrow with broken wings. But now I shine with your reflection on me. I'm getting back up on my feet. That you showed up was written in my palm. You are a statement, explode like a bomb. I get to push myself to victory. You make me winner. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way. You showed me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way. You showed me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day. Yes, I'm the winner, yeah. 'Cause I'm the winner, yes. Am I awake or am I dreaming? So far gone, I won't look back. And when I move, there ain't no stopping me. You're pushing me up to the top. I saw the clouds looking angry, but then the sky reached my mind. And when I space out, I see the possibilities unfolding the way that I want. That you showed up was written in the palm. You are a statement, explode like a bomb. I get to push myself to victory. You make me winner. You cut me loose and set me free. You cut me loose. You make me
Hey, all right. Welcome to Sunday Live Spiritual Direction and Soul Care every Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And we are so glad to be together, whether you're watching on the live or on the replay. Say hello in the chat. Let me know how you're doing, how this week has been going. I'm really excited as we continue our journey through thriving through uncertainty, thriving in uncertainty. And we've been looking at 7 strategies that help us do that. We're so excited that you're here. I can't wait to engage and talk again with all of y'all. There is incredible wisdom and healing in this community, and I'm so glad to get into the material today. If you're checking us out, come over to Facebook, to our private Facebook page. You can go to Spiritual Direction or Spiritual Soul Care, I believe it's called over there, but that's the link for the Facebook page. Come on over. You can find more resources there, connect with other people in our growing community. It is awesome. And one other thing, as some of you have known, we started doing midweek meditation every other Wednesday. Our next one is October 13th, where we connect and we do some guided times of guided prayer, centering prayer, meditation, that really kind of drives in on our most basic spiritual practices, which are breath and coming to stillness together, focusing on our breath, getting down, centering down. And we do that through some guided scripts, and it's been really powerful. That's on Zoom. You can find out more on the Facebook page, get all the links and everything there for midweek meditation. And as always, you can come and check out Spiritual Direction and soulcare.com, where you can learn about our soul care program, donate to the work, and connect there as well. So glad you are all with us. Let's go. Yeah, it's going to be good. So today, Diane Lopez is with us. Good morning to you as well. Just keep the chats coming, keep the comments coming, and let's see how everybody's doing today. As we move in, and before we dive into today's material, last week we didn't do this. We took a little break, but today I want us to do it because it's very important. It is our most basic spiritual practice, breathing and coming to stillness, giving ourselves the gift of stillness. Like I've said, you are worthy of your own attention. And when we have a moment of guided silence and prayer, that helps us pay attention to ourselves. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, is the tactic of paying attention, the strategy of helping us to pay attention. And what does that really, really mean? What does that really mean for us as we do this journey? So let's open to the Spirit and give ourselves the gift of stillness. Wherever you are, whether you're standing or sitting, get in a space that's comfortable for you, and make sure your spine is tall and straight, and let's breathe. And maybe again, let your shoulders drop. If it helps to close your eyes, bring kind awareness to the expansion of your lungs. This physical making of space for the reality that sustains us, our very breath. I invite you to bring kind awareness to yourself, maybe you've had a long week, an intense week. This is where we just lay that aside. Maybe you're worried about the coming week. It will be there waiting. Just lay it aside for now. Maybe you had a great week, or maybe you're really looking forward to this coming week. Even your anticipation and hope, just simply lay it before you. Let it be what it is. Pay attention to yourself. Pay attention to where you're carrying your worry or your joy, your fatigue, your hope, wherever it is in your body. Just pay attention to it and just breathe. Notice yourself. Breathe in and out. Let's just come to stillness and the gift of silence. As we focus in on our breath. The gift of stillness given to yourself. The gift of awareness given to yourself. You are open to the Spirit. The Spirit is with us and always present and always working. Amen. Amen. Let it be. So be it. So be it. How do you feel? How do you feel? Whether you're on the broadcast or on the replay, let me know how you feel. This gift, this moment of rest and the go, 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 right? It's good sometimes to rest by turning on the TV. Like a little earlier today, we were watching a Star Wars movie with the kids, right? We were watching Revenge of the Sith, right? Episode 3, our youngest called it When Darth Vader Comes to Town. So I think that's a better title. I think we should make up alternate kid titles for all the Star Wars movies. We should have a contest. That would be amazing. So episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, when Darth Vader comes down. It's important, right? To like rest and maybe rest by like checking out, watching a movie, being entertained, and distracted. It can be really helpful for us, right? But also coming to rest, right? Just paying attention, right? Knowing that you are worthy of your own attention. How do we, that's an intellectual statement. You've heard me say it a bunch of times, but how do you operationalize it? How do you actualize it, right? You do it with practices like breathing, meditation, right? Things that help you attend to yourself in a way that's not judgmental. That's in a way that's not about evaluation. So much of the spiritual journey, so much, especially in the religious world, so much of spiritual journey uses words like transformation or growth or whatever to really just mean sitting around and reflecting and thinking really hard about how you don't like yourself and what's wrong with yourself, right? And like what we actually need is to practice the gift of being with ourselves, learning to delight in what we are as we are, right? We don't want to weaponize the idea of transformation, right? Judy says we should make up alternate descriptions for our life experiences when Darth Vader comes in. Yes, that's that whole power. That's that whole power of that we've talked about before, right? We have the power to tell ourselves a better story. We have the power to restructure the narrative of our lives, right? Like this is something that God has put within us, this capacity. right? To restructure. So like, instead of Revenge of the Sith, when Darth Vader comes to town, doesn't that sound so much more open? Sounds like it might just be a pleasant visit. He's going to drop off some muffins or something, right? Maybe you need to do that, right? Like maybe there's that part or that segment or that chapter in your life where it's when the Sith, Revenge of the Sith, but maybe you need to reimagine it as when Darth Vader came to town, when your shadow side came to town, right? When your shadow came and visited, right? Because you need to love and embrace all of who you are, right? Your whole story, you bring your whole self to your life, right? And your whole story brings itself to you, right? So it's like, I love this idea, right? So it's like when we breathe, when we do these things, it just helps us practice in a non-judgmental, non-evaluative, like I need to think about and check the box sort of way, right? Like just be with yourself. Just be with yourself, right? Bring kind awareness to yourself. Just bring compassion to yourself. Just bring love to yourself. Yeah? I love that. So today we are continuing with that. And that's just kind of what we're getting at today, right? We're going to be looking at part five in thriving in uncertainty, right? And we've been looking at 7 different strategies that help us do that. And like I've said, this is grounded in the work of Dr. Christine Carter, and it's giving us some really insanely practical tools for this basic reality that's built into life. Uncertainty is part of life. We know this. I say this every week, right? The famous mathematician, John Allen Paulo, says uncertainty is the only certainty there is. Uncertainty is the only certainty there is. So knowing how to live with insecurity is the only security. See? So we've talked about different things. We really explored a gratitude journal a couple weeks ago. So if you want to go back and look at that, like a really clinical, practical way to deploy a gratitude practice that actually has clinically measured good outcomes for us and our growth, right? Like we've looked at, we've talked about different questions and turnarounds and all these different tactics and strategies that we can use to help us restructure the narrative that we're telling ourselves when we face the reality of life, right? Because living with uncertainty is hard, right? I say this every week, being a person is hard, right? So living with uncertainty is hard, right? And we crave information the way we crave all our primary rewards. We crave information. That's how we're wired, right? We see ambiguity as a threat. We try to diminish, right? We try to protect ourselves, right? By diminishing our ability to focus on anything else than creating certainty for ourselves, right? So let's review really quick. How do we best cope when everything feels out of control? Well, up until now, we've looked at 4 different strategies. We said, don't resist reality, right? That's about that radical acceptance, right? We invest in ourselves. You are worthy of your own attention, right? We find healthy ways to comfort ourselves, which means sustainable ways, right? We're not going to moralize. We're not going to moralize about, that extra slice of pizza, like I said to someone the other day, I kind of riffed on what Betsy King McDonald likes to say, no one's coming to save us, but what you can have is a cream-based cheesy potato dish for your soul, right? Like no one's coming to save us, but like we can have carbs and melted chewy dairy fat on pizza. And sometimes that's good, but that's not necessarily sustainable, right? So healthy by meaning sustainable, right? Find the sustainable ways to comfort ourselves without judging ourselves for the occasional, I ate a whole sleeve of Thin Mints, or whatever. Last week we talked about then, don't believe everything you think, right? Don't believe everything you think. Diane Lopez loves kettle corn. That's one of your comfort foods, right? So last week we talked about don't believe everything you think, right? Do the turnarounds. Ask yourself questions to help turn yourself around, to help you get out of the narrated story that you're believing and thinking, right? And I would say just in general, like that's one of the best things that you can do. So today we're going to talk about paying attention. Today we're going to talk about paying attention. So what if we chose to frame our reality this way when we think of uncertainty, right? What if we said that the opposite of uncertainty is not certainty, It's presence. Presence. What if we chose to say our new understanding of reality is that the opposite of uncertainty is not certainty, it's presence. Presence, being present to yourself, being present to the now, being present with the one in front of you, right? It's presence. One of the most basic tools that we use in what we call clinical spiritual care, where you see this show up is in like hospital chaplaincy and places like that, right? But like clinical spiritual care, one of our main tools is to help reframe focus on the present. Focus on the present, right? Because when we get into crisis, we often get into crisis because we're unsure of what's going to happen. What if, or this crisis has happened and now I don't know what it means for my life. And this could happen and then this, and then what am I going to do when blah, 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 right? So what we do is we refocus on the present and we fully bring ourselves to be present to the present, right? So it's presence, the practice of presence. The opposite of uncertainty is not certainty, it's presence. So instead of imagining a scary and unknown future, right? Instead of always thinking the worst about that person, right? We bring our attention simply away from the story to our breath. That's one of the most radical movements, right? One of the most radical movements to get out of story and just to come back to giving oneself the gift of stillness, of breath, right? Getting so radically out of the unknown future story, right? Or the crisis story or the hurt story, and bring yourself down to the most granular level of presence with the self, right? See? Judy says, this is interesting. I was going to say that the opposite of uncertainty is trust in the presence, capital P, which can be expressed as awareness of the presence, capital P, or present. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And so I always want to do insanely practical tools, right? So like to operationalize this idea, right? To make it real for us, we practice it, right? So as soon as we start getting into these narratives of crisis and story, right? We step out and radically ground ourselves in the present with presence. So from there, when we do this, then what can we do? Okay. Then you check in with yourself, right? You could do this every time you have to wash your hands, right? Every time you wash your hands, you could just ask yourself, how are you doing right now? Like talk to yourself like you're outside yourself, like you talk to somebody that you care about. How are you doing right now, Kat? How are you doing right now, Mark? How am I, not how am I doing? Help step out a little bit too, because to be present means a little bit of distance, right? To externalize ourselves. So we say, as you're washing your hands, right? Because it's still COVID, right? COVID tide. So we're washing our hands regularly, right? Please tell me you are. And as you're washing your hands, how are you doing, Mark? Right? How are you doing, Judy? Right? You're present to yourself, maybe with breath or by the physical sensation of touching yourself, becoming aware of yourself as you're washing your hands, and you check in with yourself, right? Really see, do you see how radically simple and radically practical this is, right? And so when you check in with yourself, then what do? You just start to notice what emotions you're feeling, right? And where in your body you're feeling those emotions, being present to yourself. You bring curiosity and acceptance to your experience, right? Not judgment or assumptions, right? Bring curiosity and acceptance to your experience. I think that's so basic to the idea of being worthy of your own attention, right? I have interactions with people all the time where they just make assumptions based on things I say or things I ask. This has happened several times over the last couple of weeks. And I'll talk with other colleagues or with Jill, and I'll be like, what blows me away is the staggering lack of curiosity that people have about each other, and they think they just know. Well, it's annoying when somebody else does it to you, right? It can be really annoying, but I think it's really harmful when you do this to yourself, right? Bring curiosity. We have this staggering lack of curiosity about what's going on with ourselves. We just have all this stuff and we're bound up and we just keep driving through, or we try to store, think our way out of it, right? Nah, right? Bring curiosity and acceptance to your experience. That's what the essence of kind awareness is, right? When we talk about having kind awareness, that's really the essence of the very first strategy that we talked about, right? A few weeks ago, right? Don't resist reality. Be curious about reality, not judgmental about reality, especially the reality that is you. And even when it feels then like everything's out of control, then we can still control what we pay attention to, right? You can still control what you pay attention to, even when things aren't out of control, right? You can turn off your alerts to keep the news or social media from hijacking our awareness. You can go in and change the notifications on your phone. You don't need the little red bubble on every single app on your phone all the time, right? And that pulls you out of where you are right now, right? Like, who needs it? Maybe regulate and say, I'm only going to check in and scroll Facebook once, maybe during lunch, right? Once a day during lunch. And I'm going to turn off the notifications so I don't even see the bubbles, right? Because we have this like stimulus, almost Pavlovian thing of like, there's this stimulus that happens like, oh, somebody interacted with me. Somebody's talking to me. Somebody's da-da-da-da. You know what I mean? Like, turn all the notifications off and then create a discipline of I'm only going to scroll Facebook once a day at noon and never around my family or anything like that, right? Like, I would dare say it would be a miraculous change for your sense of self and your mental health, right? Cat Williams says, I love this suggestion for practice, noticing the difference between the mind is leaping ahead or replaying versus the body. The body exists in the now and will help me ground in the present if I turn there, right? Because like this is one of the things, like when I have a companion in crisis, right? Whether I'm going into a hospital room or on the phone with a family member of a patient in crisis, when I'm meeting with a companion, like in a soul care session, right? And they're super in crisis and they're getting overwhelmed with the where their mind is leaping or replaying. I love that. Thanks, Kat, for bringing that up. The replaying that we do, like, stop doing that. That's a choice, right? Like, but some of us are traumatized. So it's easy to go there, right? We get stuck, right? One of the basic techniques we do is we go, are you safe right now? Where are you right now? Here. Are you safe now? Yes. Are you safe right now? Yes. And are you safe now? Yes. Right? To help them name and see the grounding in the present. You can only be where you are right now, right? You can only be yourself. You can't be anyone else. You can only be you, and that's good enough. And you can only be here and be now what you are and where you are. That's it, right? This is good stuff, you guys. Oh my gosh. When you hear it, you kind of go, oh, yeah, duh, right? You know what I mean? Like, once somebody starts saying it, you go, oh, yeah. But like, it's so hard to do it. And that's why paying attention is so key. That's why this strategy is so key. Step out of the stories, come to breath, pay attention to the very physical reality of your body. Say, how am I doing right now? Not assessing, not creating the big narrative story, anything. Just what am I experiencing right now? I'm angry. Okay, where am I feeling that in my body, right? See? We can also, and this helps us drop those ruminations, the replay or the worry about the unknown future. It helps us drop our negative fantasies, right? By attending to what's actually happening in our inner world, in our bodies right now, right here in the present, right? So attending to watch. Attending to what is happening within us at any given moment keeps external reality from determining our inner truth. Let's say that again. Attending to what is happening within us at any given moment keeps external reality from determining our inner truth. That person looked at me weird. There must be something wrong with me. No! Right? all the weird different ways social media creates weird obligations to each other, right? And then we worry. Or when we text each other, right? When you text somebody and they don't respond back within 5 minutes, and your mind goes crazy because of this external reality. Are they mad at me? Do they not want to talk to me anymore? Did I do something wrong? Did they, if people who like each other talk to each other immediately? And it's like their phone might have been off. They might have been in the toilet. They might be at work. They might be in a meeting. They might be on another phone call. You know what I'm saying? But you see what we do to ourselves, right? So attending to what's happening within us at any given moment keeps external reality from determining our inner truth. Accepting, I like to say, we don't have to accept the assignment of what other people are doing, saying, or not doing or saying. That doesn't actually tell you anything about who you are and where you are within yourself, right? It allows us to cultivate calm. It allows us to create open-mindedness, which is the baseline of non-judgment. It helps us cultivate a not resisting reality, a radical acceptance, right? See how these tactics, they all kind of reinforce each other. It allows us to cultivate non-reactivity, right? Non-reactivity. Edwin Friedman wrote about systems theory in relationships, whether in corporate settings, church, synagogue, all that stuff, right? And he talks about managing our reactivity to other people's reactivity. He says, in the old model, anxiety is something that exists within ourselves. He's like, in the new model, because we understand the system's connections with each other and the way we're hardwired to connect, anxiety is a dynamic that actually rises between people. This is very, very helpful insight for me, right? You think that the turmoil field, because the person hasn't texted back in 5 minutes, is all in yourself alone. But but where did it come from? It came from the dynamic between you, right? Right? And even that dynamic, even though you're experiencing it in your body, isn't actually telling you the truth about who you are, right? It's not actually telling you the truth about your true state, right? So paying attention, attending to what is happening at any given moment helps us cultivate this non-reactivity. So I want to talk a little bit more, go a little deeper about non-reactivity, okay? And as I kind of move into that, tell me what you're thinking, right? Tell me how this is landing for you guys. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Or is this another one of those Sunday lives where people are like, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start, because I really believe this stuff is good stuff for us, right? It's really healing for us. It's stuff that we can turn around and start doing right now. It's stuff that we can start doing today, right? It's stuff that can benefit your marriage, right? Your relationships, your parenting, how you interact with coworkers, right? How you interact with the boss, how you act as the boss if you're the boss, right? I don't care what it is you're doing. This stuff can actually transform, right? Everything we're doing and how we're living as we live in the ambiguity of this thing that we call life, right? Okay. So let's go a little deeper about non-reactivity, okay? So Thomas Keating is the father of the centering prayer movement. I've read a lot of his books when I was over the last 20 years, really influenced by a lot of his early thought. He has a wonderful book, little tiny book, that is actually a set of lectures that he gave that were then transcribed into a little book. It's called The Human Condition by Thomas Keating. Jill, if you're watching, why don't you look it up on Amazon and throw it in the chat as a link on Amazon. The Human Condition by Thomas Keating. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. Wonderful, easy to read book, and critical for if you want to go a little deeper in a really accessible way around some of these ideas, okay? So Thomas Keating and many others have had this insight that all of us, right? This is talking about non-reactivity. All of us have unconscious emotional programs for happiness, right? And those programs for happiness run our conscious attention and behavior. They run our conscious systems of what we do, where we pay attention, how we act, and what we care about. these unconscious emotional programs for happiness. And this rises from what we call the survival self, right? You've heard me talk about this in terms of the unconscious, right? Like the unconscious only has two jobs: to preserve your life physically and to preserve your life self-conceptually. So when we make cognitive commitments about reality, about how things work, how the world should be, who you are, who this person is, your place in it, right? And especially when we make premature cognitive commitments about reality. There's the link, you guys, for this book. It's an excellent book. Click it, go buy it. You won't regret it. So when we, thanks, babe. When we do this, right? When we make cognitive commitments, your unconscious goes, that's reality for this person. And so what your unconscious does is then helps preserve your perceptions of reality. It can alter your perceptions of reality to reinforce those self-conceptions, those programs for happiness, right? And that's the survival self. That's your unconscious, right? And it believes, right? The baseline is it believes that it has to have one or more of these three elements I'm going to share with you in order to be happy and thus to survive, to be okay, right? The first element is our unconscious believes that we have to have either power or control, right? Power/control, right? Esteem and affection is the second one. And third is security and survival. Those are your three basic programs for happiness, goals that they have, right? Power, control, esteem and affection, security and survival, right? And then these express themselves in the 6 basic emotions that we have, right? Which is sad, mad, and scared, or peaceful, powerful, and joyful, right? You have 3 negative, quote negative, and 3 positive basic emotions. All other experiences of emotions can all root down to these 6 basic emotions: sad, mad, scared, peaceful, powerful, joyful. And these all help us act as markers and evidence of if our programs for happiness around power, control, esteem and affection, and security and survival are happening. Right? This is the basic core reality of the human self, right? This isn't just psychology, right? We need psychology, right? But this goes to the whole self that psychology illuminates, that spirituality illuminates, that human development illuminates, right? And these are the unconscious drivers of our more kind of like conscious things that we attach to, the conscious things that we say we like, right? And our conscious things that we don't like. The things we have aversions toward, the things we don't want to be around, right? And this creates hidden agendas that enter into all our real life situations, right? Because every single human interaction, every single human real life situation is us navigating through, wondering on a deeply unconscious level, how does this interaction help reinforce my program for power, control, affection and esteem, or security and survival? These things are always running in the background. It's like when your phone starts to get too slow or your computer gets too slow and you start checking it, you use the utility tool and they say, should we close background, keep these programs from running in the background or stop apps from running in the background? It's like, right, you can't stop these apps. These apps are always running in the background. Okay. And so when we pay attention, that helps us surface which apps are doing what they're doing. So we know how to like interact, right? And know where we're at, right? This is what paying attention does for us. See, it sounds so practical. And yet here we are, like, y'all, we've gone deep. We're in the deep end of the pool now. We're talking about the human core functionality. Okay. Right now, are you picking up what I'm putting down? Like, this is good stuff. Okay. So these agendas are in every single interaction and everything we do. Then what happens though is we have a triggering event, right? We have something that we think threatens, right? Threatens our emotional programs for power, control, esteem, affection, security, or survival, right? Something seems to be threatening it. We might not even realize that it's threatening it, right? And so what happens is frustration sets in, right? Frustration sets in and you might turn it inward and then you get depressed, right? Or you might just turn it outward and you might lash out at people, right? Like that's a thing, right? So we have these programs running, we have a triggering event, something that threatens these things, and then we get frustrated, right? And so the ordinary mind, our mind generates emotional reactions. It generates internal dialogue, stories that we tell ourselves, right? It generates inner turmoil that do what? That are there to reinforce our unconscious programs for happiness, right? They just reinforce the program, right? So it's right after that initial moment of frustration that we have this opportunity to kind of throw a stick in the spokes of spinning into the story, right? Spinning into the replay, spinning into the scary, unknown future that we're terrified of, but we're pretty sure is going to be bad, and we narrate, right? Or that this person isn't really good, or whatever it is, right? Here we are again, right? We're doing this because it's reinforcing our, well, this is a threat to me, so I need to protect, right? That's what happens. So when we start realizing we're frustrated, this is especially a great time to pay attention, to move into presence, to go, how am I doing and what is this about, right? How am I doing, right? Rather than allowing like a fight or flight, or freeze tactics, right? To strengthen the small self's habits, we're able at this precise moment to kind of implement a threefold path to non-reactivity, okay? And before I do that, I want to check in on some comments because we're getting good comments here. Judy says, power, esteem, control, those sort of values are actually part of our carnal or animal self and the out of control values of narcissists. It's so important to become aware of this so we don't believe the assumption that we need these things, right? Right, that's right. It's like, you can call it the small self, you can call it the false self. Lots of different spiritual teachers call it that, you can call it, Paul, the Apostle Paul in the Bible talks about the natural, or the flesh, right? These are all just ways of talking about the false self, right? The part of us that believes that our because, control and power and esteem and affection and survival and security are not wrong, right? They are basic needs, but it's the programs to get them is what rises out of this carnal self, right? Our programs kind of are self-defeating, right? Or they're isolating, or they break relationship with people, right? So that's the thing, right? It's never wrong to want to survive, right? Right? It's never wrong to have a sense of an existential sense of meaning and the ability to direct one's life, right? You know what I mean? Kat says, is it about detaching from those drives as well as the stories that trigger the sense of threat then? Yeah, so like I think I might have just been answering some of that. That's great because that's a great question to clarify. I think like your basic human needs, right? Your basic existential needs of like affection, right? And esteem from others. We're hardwired for connection. We need to give that to each other, right? So it's not the baseline needs, right? It's the programs that we've built to get those needs, right? It's not the what's, like the basic human reality of your life is good and beautiful and is how we're wired. It's what we are, right? But it's like we always have these like weird programs for happiness that always seem to like actually ultimately sometimes become self-defeating ultimately, right? Or if they work, they a lot of times work at the cost of other people. Right. And so that's what we're kind of sussing that out. Right. That's what being present does. It helps us suss out, do some really, really practical way, start doing some really deep inner work, right? Doing this deep inner work that truly is transforming because it's not about judging ourselves. It's not about bashing ourselves. It's just about sussing out all the ways that we've decided certain programs for happiness work for us, right? And we could talk for hours about programs for happiness, okay? Like, because they come from not only the assumptions we have, because we know we're programmed for happiness generators. We know how to do that. We do it, but that's influenced by your personality. That's influenced by your family of origin. That's influenced by your experiences. That's influenced by your traumas. That's experience. We create this whole superstructure of ways that we build these programs, right? So that's all we're getting into here. So does that make sense? So let's talk about this threefold path to non-reactivity. So we pay attention, we check in with ourselves, right? We start paying attention at the very granular level of our bodies and start asking, be curious about ourselves, right? So we cultivate calm, we cultivate non-reactivity, we cultivate some externalizing. One of the best things when you're feeling like, it's just go, wait a minute, why am I feeling like this? Right? Like, it's amazing. I know for me personally, it is, I will be like, right here, because I'm quick on the trigger. My feelings are close to the surface a lot of times about different things. And one of the things that helps me almost instantly dial it back is if I can just step back internally and go, why am I feeling like this? Right? Like, why am I reacting like this? What's going on for me? Right? It suddenly just takes the edge off. Just that alone, even if you don't want to do any other inner work, just that alone is a gift to yourself, right? So we step into these 3 ways, right, of non-reactivity, right? It's a way of escape, right? The way of escape. Okay. The way of escape then is to train yourself to put into place a non-reactive strategy that follows right on the heels of a triggering event, right? Someone is disrespectful to you in a staff meeting, right? Your partner didn't show up in a way that you needed them to show up, right? Your parents, they don't always love you well, right? Or they wield religion and control and think that's love. I don't know what it is. You're on the phone with them, even over the distance of miles, and you're having hard conversations or whatever that are really triggering, right? Like, I don't know. You know what your triggering events are. Think about it. What are the things that trigger you? What are the interactions, reactions, statements, behaviors that trigger you, And right there, in that moment, you have the opportunity to do the first thing, which is to respond with non-reactive awareness. This is kind of what I was getting at, right? You consider yourself a third-person observer, okay? How are you doing right now, Nathan? Right? Maybe go look in a mirror. Unless that'll make you cry. I had a hard day on Thursday, and I went into the bathroom to wash my face, and I just started crying even more once I saw that I've been crying. So it's like, but you consider yourself a third-person observer who's watching your own emotional responses arise and then move along, right? Don't judge. Don't try to change yourself. Just observe. Be curious, right? And in time, that practice will begin to cultivate a kind of third-person perspective inside yourself that sometimes some people call the inner witness. Your inner witness. You are worthy of your own attention, and you need to cultivate your own inner witness, right? Instead of reacting to other people's reactivity, and then somebody says something crappy, but they didn't really mean it was crappy. It was just kind of thoughtless and they weren't being really attentive. But then you took it personally and you triggered so that you said something shitty back. And then they think out of the blue to them, genuinely, they don't think they've done anything because they haven't, right? They just didn't really interact with something. But then, so what's happening for them, even though you think that they started it and they were kind of terse and mean and shitty, they feel like you're coming out of nowhere being shitty. And so then they get shitty back, and then it's a, right? You know what I mean? So it's like non-reactive awareness is this practice that we're talking about, right? To cultivate a third-person perspective on yourself that you call your own inner witness. That's you paying attention to yourself. That's you demonstrating curiosity about yourself. That's you activating what it means to be worthy of your own attention and paying attention to yourself, being a friend to yourself, giving to yourself what you would give to your partner or spouse or child or best friend. How are you doing right now? Oh, it seems like this is going on for you, right? Do this, right? This is that first path. That's kind of what we were all talking about up until now. We respond with non-reactive awareness by cultivating an inner third-person perspective. What's going on with me? Paying attention. That's what this practice is. Then the second thing is to experience the emotions in your body, right? Your most basic emotions, right? Sad, mad, scared, peaceful, powerful, joyful, right? Joy, grief, anger, fear, right? These correlate with felt energies in the body, right? These are things that are actually happening in your mind, but it's sending signals through your vagus nerve to different parts of your body, right? The vagus nerve is your information superhighway. And so if you're wired a certain way, your brain is like, this is anger, and sends a certain chemical down to make your stomach, if that's how you react, right, go, ugh, right? Or if you're anxious, to feel pressure in your chest, or to, get diarrhea or whatever, right? I don't know, whatever it is for you, right? And then rather than fighting, right? Rather than fighting that, right? Rather than confronting the source of discomfort, right? Or fleeing, right? Out of sight, out of mind, or freezing by numbing your physical and emotional responses. This counterintuitive strategy opens your bodily sensations to the experience, again, observing with non-reactive awareness. You just keep going deeper into this inner witness. What's going on with me? Why am I feeling this way? Oh, my stomach is tightening. Oh, I'm suddenly feels like my shoulders are up in my ears. I'm so tense, right? Oh, I'm getting that like tension headache in the back of my head again, feels like someone's like jamming a tent peg through my eye. I don't know what it is. Whatever your body does to manifest those emotions that you're feeling, and you just keep that inner witness going, right? You don't fight it. Goes back to, strategy 1. Don't resist. Don't resist the reality of yourself either. Just stay present to it, right? Stay to it. Stay present to it, right? Non-reactive awareness. And then the third step for non-reactivity is to breathe again. Breathe and let go. With every breath out, imagine all that energy coming through your body and out, right? Flowing out. Letting that energy flow out of you. Breathe in, right? Like Judy says, it's interesting, your witness can be metaphor for your spirit or your silent, sacred, compassionate Holy Spirit. Yes, absolutely. That thing, that core reality within you that communes with the Spirit of God, that permeates all things, right? And what's remarkable about that, this is the granular level of what it means when God says, I am with you always, right? That I will never leave you nor forsake you. It's what we see fully embodied in the person of Jesus in the incarnation. Jesus comes and experiences the full range of the human self, and by the Spirit is continuing to experience that. So God is experiencing it with you, right? Right? So you attempt to breathe, right, into these challenges, right? Starts with breath to pay attention, check in with yourself, and you start cultivating this inner witness. You experience your feelings and emotions. You don't fight them. You just keep breathing with it and you bear witness to it. Like, you guys know that sometimes things are so crappy. The best thing that you could do for a friend is just to sit and not say nothing and just to be like, I see you. I'm here with you in it. Do that to yourself. Give yourself this gift, right? You are not exempt from the need of this, and you can give this to yourself, right? You can give this to yourself too. So do this. You are worthy of it, right? And so you attempt to breathe into the challenges, and this keeps the body, mind, heart reality of you, right? Open to this moment, right? Open to that moment, and open to the larger dimension, right? The vertical dimension, right? The deeper dimension, the depth of your experience. I don't care what metaphor you use, right? I don't care what you use to mean that thing that is deeper than all things, the whole sum total of all things, or whatever it is that you want to call it, right? But it helps you be open to this moment, truly open to yourself, and aware of your place within the larger reality of all things, right? Rather than shutting that full self down, right? Shutting down the full self, the emotions, the negative triggers, all this stuff, instead of shutting it down in fear or falling back into unsustainable, numbing coping behaviors, right? And so if possible, right? So if possible, then you can attempt to let go of all the ways that then we want to energize, right? Our resistance. Energize those ego-driven thoughts and emotions, right? By justifying, defending, indulging, recruiting allies, right? Demonizing people, right? You just kind of let it all go. Now, the thing before I wrap up with this is that I'll say to you is just like, before you get to the breathe and let go, sometimes you have to ping pong back and forth between responding with non-reactive awareness and experiencing the emotions in your body. It's not a linear, like you do this and it works, and then you can experience your emotions, and then it works, and then you experience all your emotions, and then you breathe and you let go, and it always just works, right? Like, it's not science, right? We have to remember that no matter what clinical insights we have in human development, spiritual development, mental health, all these things which are critical for us essential for us to be able to do this work, right? We have to understand that this is art, right? This is art and craft more than engineering and science, right? So you have to follow and lean into and get in your own flow, right? You may ping pong back and forth with like, what's happening here for me? Blah, 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 blah. You know, like these are the emotions that I'm feeling, blah, 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 right? And then go back to, and then now what else is happening for me? And on and on and on, right? Just live in that space, because the real thing is cultivating inner witness, right? Cultivating this inner witness, this paying attention to oneself, paying attention to the reality of what's happening, paying attention to how you're feeling, paying attention to and surfacing what programs of happiness are being thwarted right now, because, and is there a better way for me? Ultimately you want to get to the place, say, is there a better way for me to make sure that I have esteem and affection in my life, right? Like, is there a better way? Because how's that working out for me? That's the next thing down the road. And we could talk about that too, right? But just saying, right? Like, before you get there, before you need to figure out that, do this work of paying attention, giving yourself your own attention, being curious about yourself, right? And cultivating this inner witness, the attentive holding space for oneself that you would never withhold from someone you loved, right? Even if, I remember talking to someone one time whose husband died, and they looked right at me and they said, there's nothing you can say that will comfort me. That's the first thing they said. And I was just like, I know. And I'm here with you. I'm here with you, because that's all. She was actually self-aware enough. That wasn't mean for her to say it. That she was self-aware enough to be able to actually articulate the moment, what was going on with her, and what she actually knew she needed, and what was going to work and wasn't going to work for her, right? And I'm like, and I was able to just honor that, go, I know, I'm just here with you, right? Because there isn't anything I can say. I wasn't going to try, right? But there's something powerful about someone bearing witness for us, right? And we need that from each other, but we also can give it to ourselves. And you need to do it. You need to do it for yourself, because there are going to be times when the other person isn't around, or the person you need isn't going to show up, right? And that's okay. But if you have this deep skill developed, this insanely practical tool of what it means to pay attention to ourselves, right? Coming back to the present, not creating more certainty or a false sense of certainty by reinforcing programs of happiness, but by becoming present, right? That'll make all the difference. I really believe this. I really, really, really believe this. We got some comments here. Let me look here. What's going on? Judy says, Jesus said he must ascend to heaven so the spirit or advocate can come. In a sense, that is how our thinking self must pause or cease to make awareness or receptivity to our spiritual observer or sacred witness. Yes, that's right. God is always present, always working. That's why That's why we call coming to breath and stillness opening to the spirit, right? Because that spirit energizes our spirits, right? That advocate, that helper, that counselor, that comforter that the Holy Spirit is called, right? Resides within us. And these are practices that help us get in that spirit's flow, that help us become good partners with that, right? That the inner witness of ourselves is also the witness of God to us and with us always, who says that God is always with us. One of my favorite passages of scripture, the Lord is near to the brokenhearted, heals those who are crushed in spirit. It's this unknown, unrecognized sacrament that even when we're triggered, even when we're hurting, all these things, right? That there's the promised presence of God, that divine sacred presence that is within us, bearing witness within us. And sometimes that witness, too often in the religious world, that witness is that spirit is talking and saying, believe in God, believe in God, believe in God. Just don't ever give up, checking the box of the doctrines that we've told you to believe. That's not it. Sometimes bearing witness is the Spirit of God, the sacred divine reality of God within you. Just simply saying, I see you. I'm with you in the broken heart. I'm with you in the triggering moment. I'm with you when your program for happiness met its logical end, or it's dead end or failed, right? I'm here. We're not going to reconstruct a new program yet. We're not going to do that work yet. We're just going to grieve what's happening right here. Sometimes that's what the witness of the Spirit is. And I think 9 times out of 10, the Spirit of God is probably not talking as much as we think that Spirit is, but is simply being present, healing presence with us, right? We know this works with us as humans. Why would it be any different? Why do we need it always to be about a God that's chattering at us as opposed to just being with us, helping us see that we are not alone? Mark says, self-affirmation and saying positive things to myself in the mirror are especially hard. I like this approach of checking in and acting as a third party, asking, how are you? Yes, because it helps you practice a kind of distance, right? To get out of the turmoil a little bit, right? That's so good. Diana says, I don't remember where I got this from, but I ask myself in moments where I'm feeling emotionally reactive, am I acting from heart or hurt? Oh, that's so good. That's so good. Am I acting from heart or hurt? This helps me slow down and recognize whether I'm being reactive or I'm being intentional with how I'm responding to something or someone else. Oh my gosh, you guys. That is so good. That is so good. It just is always good on Sundays, you guys. You guys are, like I always say, this is a community of wisdom. If you're watching on the replay, you need to like that. If I could like that a billion times, I would like that comment a billion times. If you're watching on the replay, put your own comments in. We want to be able to hear from you as well. There's so much wisdom in this community, and I'm sure there's tons more that's untapped. I can't wait to hear from everybody. It's been good to be together this Sunday again, you guys. It's so good. I just want to remind you that this Wednesday, October 13th at 7 p.m. is our next midweek meditation. Let's all get back together. Let's get back together. Let's get on Zoom. Let's actually see each other's faces. Let's talk. Let's do some guided meditation together where we pay attention to particular issues or concepts or needs, and just let the Spirit bear witness, let the Spirit guide us. Let's cultivate our own inner witness together, and let's be a witness to each other, right? Let's be a supportive witness where we see each other and support each other. It's going to be so good this Wednesday. Y'all, I love you guys. Spiritual Direction Soul Care. You guys have a great week. It's going to be an amazing week. I believe it for you. And even in the hard times, there's going to be good things. And you have some great tools to navigate even the hard things as we walk through this uncertain thing called life together. This thing we're doing together called life. We have the tools and we have each other. And I really believe that good things are coming your way. So I'll play the video and throw any other if you have prayer needs, any other ways that we can support you going on, throw those into the chat as I jam out on the video on the way out, or you can send me a private message. And also, if you need a soul care session, give me a holler. I would love to do that. We can do that over Zoom, or if you're local, we can connect as well. Love you guys so much, and let's have a great week. Let's get healed and let's be healers. Love you guys so much. See you soon.
You're like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, you tied a rope to me. You're blessing me every day. I was down with an illusion, like a sparrow with broken wings, but now I shine with your reflection on me. I'm getting back up on my feet.